Okay, hello. Today in the School of Mike we're going to talk about the eternities. It's quite a big topic, the eternities. And why do I choose to go this way, like in the second video? It's because I think it's very crucial to grasp the whole idea. Let's start by this way. You see, in the model that I have, the top one is the eternities, kind of. And why is that? It's because this realm is by definition undefined. That's like my favorite way of describing it. And what does that really mean? Well, basically, for instance, I like to go on my bicycle, like up in the mountains, and I like to sort of amateur compete I've done it for many years. When I bike, you can follow this model too. You have the bike and everything that it contains is very measurable. You weigh the bike, there's loads of preparations with the bike and the material, and then you have the knowledge, like how do you go about, how do you do it, everything like this, the strategies and whatever. But then when you're biking, there's a realm that you can't explain, and people don't really understand unless you've done it. Like when you're on a bike riding really hard, it's painful. Like riding a bike, it's pain, that's it. It's a pain handling sport. And when you explain this to people who haven't been through it, they're like, why do you do that? Choose another sport. But there's something beautiful about it, which is like in this area. You don't really explain it, and you can't really tell it to anyone. So therefore, that's an experience that does never led itself to be explained. So by definition, the core or the heart of riding a bike is by definition undefined. Now, perhaps I should focus a bit on this. If we think about this as the rational realm, it states out an interesting point, which is that the rational mind, we could also write mind here, of human beings, can never really handle or comprehend an eternal idea. And with eternal, remember the undefined. A rational mind needs definitions, and definitions work in opposites of each other. So it's a very dualistic thing. You could almost, sometimes when I draw this model, I make a line in between, because the rational is always divided into two. And I'll talk more about this later. But one example of the rational mind that can't handle eternal ideas, and to sort of, the rational mind sort of collapses when you reach areas that don't have a definition. It's, for instance, if you ask someone, how far can you count? Like if you have all the numbers here, you start with 0, and then you go all the way to billions and trillions and gazillions, and then you end up in the eternities. Like if you ask someone, how far can you count? You're gonna, it's almost as though the mind explodes. Or like if you say to someone, how big is the universe? And the answer is, it's so big, so you don't know it. And that would also be mind-blowing, really. And that's what it is. It blows your mind. That's really a good way to put it. Now, an idea, if we look at this, the eternities is not comprehended in a rational sense, really. It's like just what it is. But not many people think about that the value of nothing, the value of 0, is just as hard to comprehend. Like, what is 0? What is nothing? Nothing is nothing. But what is nothing? If you say that it's nothing, it's something. So nothing is also a paradox. And it's like if you, for instance, take the value of 1 here, and we move to here's 0.5, and we move closer and closer and closer and closer towards 0. Like, how many decimals can you have before you reach 0? And it's an eternal amount of decimals, like 0.1000001, and then like one more decimal, and you could just go on with this formula forever before you reach 0. And this means, really, it's a bit theoretical, but just follow along, that nothing and everything is equal to each other, because they're just as hard to define in the aspect of that they're undefined. Which means that if you start from nothing and you follow it all the way to the end, you will end up in the same point. This is very, perhaps a bit crazy to grasp in your mind. The overall idea that I wanted to talk about is that the mind can never really handle these sort of ideas. Like if you go towards the end, you will end up in the beginning again. It's a crazy idea. Like, how can I move forward but go backward? So, and also, sort of, because this idea becomes a paradox. It's like the answer is two ways at the same time, and it doesn't exist. It sort of proves that we have a eternal realm around us. Again, it's very theoretical, but as we do things and let our mind go, we will end up in this realm without definition in our experience, and that's like the most beautiful place that we can be. If we just leave the theory for a while, I believe that arts and poetry can excel the mind towards this sort of realm. Remember, when I say the eternities, it's not really the eternities either. It's just a place that we can experience that we can't put in a box, as I said before. We can just accept that we experience it. I would tell you this example. Once, I think it was like 6 years ago, I got into a very existential point in my life where I sort of felt that everything that I had in my mind, over the years, sort of started to collapse. And I was very existential, and it was a difficult time for me, really. Like, what am I going to do? How does this life work? It was like on that level, like the big why. And as a part of this whole idea came up. But what I started to figure out was that if I would I came up with this idea that the eternities would be the truth. Because if you use definitions, you will only use parts of the bigger picture. Like if I would say, like, this is a table. And then if I would cut it in half, would it still be a table? That was perhaps a bad example. What I mean is that if you have a definition, like if you box in a certain concept, you would not use the concept that next to it, because you would frame it out. So therefore, the concept that you use for something would be incomplete. So I was thinking, if I want to see the complete picture, I want to see everything, I had to erase the boxes that I had, basically my mind, so I could experience as it is, without any preconceived ideas or anything. So I started spending time thinking about nothing, because I thought, well, if I can think about nothing, I would experience the eternities, that it's the same as nothing, because this zero is nothing, which would be the same as the eternity. So if I would instead aim to think about nothing, I would get the answer that I wanted. So I started spending time, like 40 minutes, 45 minutes a day, sitting still, shutting the external world out. Sometimes I draw this model with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines representing the 5 senses, because this is the external body outside every body, and this would be your mind. So these 5 senses feed your mind with information. So I was like, okay, what if I cut this out by sitting quiet, having no stimulations in my senses whatsoever? My mind, it keeps on being noisy and chattering. You talk to yourself all day long if you think about it. So I was like, okay, I need to erase this whole area of everything that I've learned my whole life. Everything that my 5 senses I put into my brain, that would be definitions and not the complete picture, which would be the overall truth. This is what I did. I started spending time searching for this nothingness, which would be everything. I will tell you more about this experience later, because it's like the turning point of the whole idea. But as I started doing this, it started to grow out of me new ideas, and I started being able to spend time more frequently in the area of nothingness. And it was I felt young again. I felt like renewed, and I really enjoyed it. I think we should end here, Well, the main idea that I have is that the eternities would... To sum it all up, as I say, the eternities, or the area of the realm of our experience of being alive, which is the one that we never define, the one that we feel like, I don't know, deep inside or whatever, that you can't put in words, that are like your creativity and all these things. It's a very vital part as a human being to nourish and to like pay attention, or to be aware that being a human being has a lot to do with this realm of nothingness. I hope that sort of made sense. I'll try to explain it better if it didn't, but this is a way of grasping the eternities, and it's a key thing for us to, as human beings, to understand or sort of comprehend. And that's it for today.